Hey everyone, it's MK. Hey, I'm here with a quick invitation today. So, I understand that there are a few seats left in my simulation track for Academy. So, I don't want you to let the word simulation scare you away or for you to assume that I'm not going to show you really how to stitch things out using Pro Stitcher. My entire methodology surrounds using Pro Stitcher, running in simulation mode, as a tool, as a simple tool like we would use anything else. Now, on the screen right now, you're looking at a whole cloth that I set up. Towards the end of the track during Academy, hopefully you will be laying out whole cloths. But what are some of the other things that I will show you how to do in my simulation track? One of the first things that I always like to start out with is showing my students how I think about doing edge to edge. It may be completely different from the way you think about doing edge to edge. What you're looking at on the screen right here is a simple setup with a free design, and it's basically just a few passes. I very rarely set up my whole entire quilt. So there's always more than one way to think about doing things, right? So I like to show my students how I think about using simulation to set up some of my edge to edge designs so that I don't have to set them up when I get to the quilt. Does that pique your interest? The next logical thing in my mind, and that I like to teach my students, is okay, we've thought about doing edge to edge. Now, how about doing an inside edge to edge with easy offset borders? We're not only ever going to want to do edge to edge, we want to take our skills to the next level. I'm assuming that's why you're coming to Academy. So, after I teach you how to do edge to edge, then we branch out and use simulation to help us set up our borders, our inside fit edge to edge, and of course, I'm going to show you how to stitch that out once we get it all planned with simulation. Here's a simple example of the line drawing that I had open on the screen, and then I've populated it. Using the line drawing in combination with populating it, well, that helps me with my entire quilting plan. And then I've got it all built. All I have to do is load the quilt and stitch. The next thing I like to branch out into is, well, what about if we're not doing an edge to edge at all? Clearly, we want to maybe jump into some custom quilting, maybe with blocks that are on point, maybe even blocks that don't fit in our throat space. All of those types of situations, I set that all up in simulation as well. Now, what you're looking at on the screen, that could either be a plan that's associated with a quilt that you might have, or this could actually be a whole cloth. The approach to using simulation, very much the same. Well, now our layouts are getting a little bit more involved. We've got several rounds of a border. We've got sashes. We've got row by row types of quilting. All of that, again, I use simulation to help me set that all up and get it ready to just load and go. You guys, part of what I teach, I call it layout and rendering. We're doing those layouts, we're getting everything ready to stitch, and then we're coming up with a pretty picture, a rendering of what our quilting plan is going to look like. And you know what? It all starts with these simple shapes that you're seeing on the screen. Just about everything that I build in its infancy starts with some sort of a line drawing, which is my template, my shell of my quilt. And pretty much it starts from these shapes. So basically, I've got a quilt. What you're watching here is me measuring a quilt that I've custom quilted recently in my studio. And of course, I'm starting out by looking at it, taking some measurements, and then I start formulating my plan. Here's the simple line drawing for that quilt. Do you see it? It's really just a combination of squares that match the quilt. Now, I'll teach you, why do I even do it that way? How do I take it from the shell to populating it with designs like this? Now, that looks like a lot on the screen, but that's a pretty good roadmap for me for when I load the quilt and go. And here's the thing, all of those designs are already set up, my workspaces are all ready to go, and all I got to do, once again, is load and go. Here's what I'm working on today. Pretty quilt. Okay, little bit of a shell as a template. Then I start populating. And here is what I've come up with. Now I'm just thinking I actually might simplify those outer piano keys and just use this simple piano key. Okay, my fabric is very printed, so I might not need that much of a piano key. But that is the whole reason I love simulation, because I can plan those things ahead of time. I can change my mind. I can drop something else in. I can get it all ready to go. And then I load the quilt and I start stitching with everything that I've planned. You guys, I've got to get that thing loaded, get to stitching. It's going to be very easy. I've got all of my designs in a folder. I've got my plan ready. I'm just going to put it on a USB stick, load it on my Infinity, and get to stitching. You guys, that is what I teach in a nutshell. If that interests you, I can guarantee you I'm going to rock your world at Academy. So go and grab one of those last seats that's available. My sidekick and my best right-hand gal, Ellen, will be with me at Academy, assisting me in the classroom. We will have a machine in there. So it's going to be a lot of lecture. You're going to get time a little bit to work on your computers, put some of these techniques into practice, and then you're going to see me at the quilt showing you some of these examples. How would I plan it in simulation, get it to the machine, and start stitching? Okay, so I'm going to hope to see you this summer out in beautiful Layton, Utah at Handi Quilter Academy. And until then, you guys, from my home studio to you, happy quilting. Bye-bye.